Hey y'all, it's me, Niecy Lynn. This is December the 12th, James Williams' birthday. This is Vlogmas number 12. And I had some different plans today, but we're just kind of gonna do a stitch with me because I may have to jump off of here. I don't know, because what a difference a day can make. The minute I finished yesterday, Micah came in the door and said that James Williams had called and said he wasn't feeling good. And so she was going to take me to the hospital where he headed to, so that we wouldn't have two vehicles over there. So we drove to, I gathered up his things and she drove me to Mansfield and let me out and let me in the back in the emergency room where he's at. And they said they pulled cardiac enzymes, but he was having a lot of the same symptoms that he had when he had had his heart attack before. Just not as severe, but he just really wasn't, he said, you know, it just didn't feel right in his heart and his arm and things. And so, like I said, they were pulling, you know, enzymes and all this. And so I just sat there and I'm stitching, and, you know, he is just full of questions and argumentative and, you know, all the things that he is. And the nurses are in and out and all, and his heart doctor comes by later in the day and they say his cardiac enzymes are fine, his sugar is doing crazy things though. So they want to, she said, I would prefer to keep you and do a chemical stress test in the morning just to be sure that nothing's going on. And if something is, then we're already here and we can just go ahead if we need to go in and see if we need to place another stent or something. We're already here and ready to go. And if you leave, you know, then we have to wait a week or two to try to get everything, you know, everything scheduled with you back in here. So, you know, we were like, whatever you need to do, that's what we need to do. But the floor was full, so we were waiting. They moved us to like a step down unit, you know, out of the emergency room. And so we're sitting over there on that side, and of course he's starving because he hasn't had lunch or anything, and they're just, you know, we're just sitting there waiting. And they come and they say, well, you know, and they did, right before we left the other side, they said, since you're being admitted, you know, we have to do a COVID test, and which, you know, okay, fine. He had already said, asked me why they hadn't done one. And I said, well, your insurance isn't just going to pay for one just because. You know, you're not having any symptoms. Your insurance isn't just going to pay for one because. So, but since he's being admitted, you know, they have to do one. Well, they do the first one, and then they come back and say they need to do it again. And of course, he says, why did you drop it? And she says, I don't know, sir. They just say I have to do another one. And of course, James Williams, who thinks the hospital is like the hotel minibar, says, well, you should just get one while I'm here. Give her one too. I said, that's not how that works. Why not? It's my insurance. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. So I'm trying to convince him that's not how that works. The nurse just finally takes it, you know, does hit the other side and leaves the room. Well, he tells her that the second time, because a different girl did it the second time. And he tells her she must have done it wrong because it didn't feel near as uncomfortable as when the first girl did it. Lord have mercy. You can't make this stuff up. And I'm just rolling my eyes. And so, like I said, then we're just waiting for the room. Well, they come, they say, we've got your room ready. So I gather all our stuff up. We head upstairs and we start down this hallway, and this lady comes at us in full hazmat gear. Lord have mercy. It looks like something from one of those movies. What's that movie? I think Dustin Hoffman's in it, where everybody gets that sickness. I mean, she is head to toe, and she's saying, she can't be here, she can't be here, she can't be here. And the nurse is saying, well, she's okay, she's been with him all day. And she says, this is the COVID wing. She can't be here. No visitors. And we're all like, and the nurse said, we weren't informed that his COVID test had come back positive. And she said, this is the COVID wing, and they put him here, and she said, let me go check. And so they send me out to the end of the hallway, and then she said, I'm starting toward the end of the hallway, and she says, you can, I guess, walk on in the room with him. Since you've come this far, just get out of the hallway. So I go on in the room, and he is saying, you might as well stay. You've been here all day. I said, James, they're saying I have to go. They're saying your COVID test is positive and I can't stay. And he says, well, if I have it, I got it from you. And the two ladies that are checking him in that room are just dying laughing. And they're like, that's not how that goes. And she still can't stay here. And he's like, why not? She's been with me all day. And they're like, she just can't. That's just the rules of the wing. She can't, she can't be here. Well, James Williams has a twofold problem. He can't hear and he don't listen. And that's a bad combo. So she comes back and she says, his test is positive and you have to go. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get his truck keys. I got to, I get his iPad out and his phone charger and, all the things I brought for him to play with in the emergency room and all. And I'm heading out the door and I said, James, I got to go. I can't stay here. I got to go. They will not let me stay here. I got to go. So I get in the truck, I call the kids. I'm like, okay, y'all, here's the deal. And start driving home his gigantic truck, which isn't, it's just a regular truck. But when you're used to driving a Jeep, it's gigantic. So I feel like I'm driving a school bus down the street, trying to get home from Mansfield. And I get back to the house and he calls me and he is just having a fit. And I said, James, you have got to stop. I cannot listen to you. You're throwing a fit. You've got to stop. Ended up having to hang up on him. Lord have mercy, because he's throwing such a fit. Let him calm down for a little bit and try again. So I talked to him for a while last night. Promised him I wouldn't watch The Mandalorian without him. Get a call from Micah that Aria Kyle has fallen off the trampoline and busted her head open. They're at the emergency room in Midlothian, waiting to see about her head. She ended up getting 3 staples in the back of her head, and of course without even a tear. I said, well, that emergency room doctor is as lucky as Paps to get out alive. Nothing, she was just fine. Big, huge gash. And so this morning when I talked to him, and I said something about the COVID, and he said, I don't understand why you had to leave. You'd been in the room with me all day. I said, James, you're on a plague ship, okay? You're in the COVID wing. No visitors there, no visitors. He said, what do you mean I'm in the COVID wing? I said, James, you're in the COVID wing. You're in the COVID wing. The whole wing, everybody on that wing is COVID positive. So they won't let nobody stay in there. It's not like in the emergency room or anywhere else in the hospital. I didn't understand that. I know. I know that now. But last night, you wouldn't stop fussing long enough to listen. So then this morning, and his doctor called last night and, she said they would do the test at 7:30 this morning. And then when I talked to him this morning, he called, the doctor comes, not his doctor, the hospitalist comes in the room and informs him that the cardiac lab didn't want to do his test because he's COVID positive. Well, I guess y'all know about how well that went. He calls me on the phone and he said, why'd I even stay here? That's what I told the guy. Why am I even here then? Y'all told me to stay so I could get this test. I said, nope. So I said, you need to tell them you need to speak to Dr. Siddiqui, and I'm going to call. So I called the charge nurse and I said, look here, if y'all weren't going to do that test, you need to send him home with me yesterday. Because if you think I'm paying for the day for him to sit there and then y'all decide you're not going to do the test, think again. Not going to happen, Captain. 1. 2, I don't know what the cardiac lab thinks they're so special for. You're sitting there doing your job. The nurse sitting next to you is doing her job. They ain't special. The doctor ordered this. They need to get on with it. So I'm not happy at this point. She said, well, Dr. Siddiqui just called and said that she had called the cardiac lab and informed them of the same thing. That she didn't care if they wanted to do it or not, that they got paid to do their job and they needed to get on with it. So I don't know what the heck's going on, but hot mess. And he's happy to be sitting there on his birthday. Well, he's happy anytime to begin with, but he's sitting there on his birthday. So I'm not happy about that. The only good thing about this is if he had not got to feeling bad and gone to the hospital, last night the kids were all going to come over and have dinner. So the kids and Bebe and little girls and everybody would have been in here last night with him and his cootie. But he's completely asymptomatic as far as the COVID goes. No cough, no congestion, nothing at all. Now, of course, they say, it can affect your heart. Maybe that's why his heart's feeling weird. But as far as anything that would say to him, you have the coronavirus, he has nothing like that. So it's really, really weird. Now, of course, like I said, he is a germaphobe. And so he's very vigilant about washing his hands and wearing his mask. And he'll tell people, don't come any closer to me. He'll be the first one to say to somebody, you don't need to, you back up. He don't like people getting up on him, and he's big enough that if he tells you to back up, people usually do. But I was just floored when they came back and said his test was positive, because he has not displayed any symptoms of feeling bad in a COVID way at all. It's very strange. So bless his heart, bless his little angry, bitter heart. He's sitting there over there on his birthday. And I told those ladies when I left last night, and I told the lady who I talked to this morning, I said, and God love you, because he's grumpy. I know he is. I said, but he's my grump. He's the only grump I got. And I expect that whatever the doctor orders needs to be done.